Hi, hello everyone, and welcome. Welcome to MTB English. Today we have a slightly different session today. Today we're going to learn a little bit more about these are techniques, these are tips. Some of them are kind of different ways that can help you to perfect your British English, to perfect your British pronunciation. So now in my previous videos, I've talked about lots of different strategies. I've talked about lots of different tips and tricks on how to sound more British, on how to perfect your British pronunciation. In today's video, we're going to learn all about about 8 tips to help you sound more British, to help you perfect your British pronunciation, whether it's English, whether it's you working towards a particular type of pronunciation in terms of British English. So now, before I get started, I've got 2 questions for you. And if your answer to all of these questions is yes, I've got you covered. So the first question is, have you ever attempted to speak with a British accent? And what was the hardest part? Perhaps intonations, syllable stress, longer vowels, short vowels. It could be the lesser R or the silent R. It could be diphthongs. It could be many different reasons. And now a lot of people, they think that I just want to learn British accent. And now if you ask me, if you say this to me, it doesn't really make sense. And I will tell you now why it doesn't make sense, because there are probably about 40 or even more accent dialects in terms of British English accents. And you have to figure out, you have to identify what type of accent you want to learn is very important, because no many people do that. Because if you want to learn a particular type of accent, or if you want to learn British accent, first thing first, try to identify what accent you want to learn. And the second question is, do you think British English is more about pronunciation or is more about vocabulary? And I think both aspects are fundamental. Both aspects are kind of a little bit more important than each other. And we have the first one, which is a pronunciation. I think it's about 70%, and the what I would say like vocabulary is about 30%, which I think all of them, they are very important. And what you should do now, your first focus should be on pronunciation, because it's 70% if you want to master, and 30% is vocabulary, which I think you have to focus a lot more on pronunciation, on how to perfect your vowels. So now, before I get started, please, if you're new to the channel, consider to subscribe and also click the bell so you don't miss any weekly videos. So now, without further ado, let's get started. The first techniques, or the first tip, is of course identify what accent you want to learn. It's important, it's very fundamental, and it's kind of helpful as well. So now I can't mention all the accents, because there are lots of different accents, many accents in the UK. But what I will highly recommend is one of my favourite accents in the UK, which is a standard British accent, which is an RP accent. An RP accent, it stands for received pronunciation. Well, this is one of the most top accents. It's one of the most standards, one of the most proper British accents in the whole UK. But there are other many accents like Cockney accent and also Manchester accent, Welsh accent, many different accents. Choose the accent that you want to learn, and hopefully when you watch this video, after watching this video, please make sure that you identify what accent you want to learn. So now I'll give you a little bit more facts about an RP. An RP is kind of an accent where I think it's quite unique. is considered as one of the most, you know, world-class accents, which I think that because they're very obvious, like you can understand any person who speak with a standard British accent. It's also the accent where you will find a lot more in English dictionaries. So in our British English dictionary, you find this accent quite a lot. Using phonemic charts, using phonemic transcriptions, where you will find the pronunciation of words. So well, ultimately, I think this is only the accent where has, kind of no geographical area, a certain geographical area in the UK, which is one of the most recommended accents. I recommend as well. So, if you want to learn British accent, do make sure that you learn RP. An RP accent is one of the most important accent to learn, and I highly recommend it. Well, of course, the second tip is master British pronunciation. So when I say master British pronunciation, what I mean is if you're working towards RP accent, this is going to be really helpful. And when I say master British pronunciation, there are lots of different variations, lots of differences between American English and British English. So now, in terms of, for example, in terms of longer vowels, short vowels, and also, for example, in terms of the silent R. So in British English, as you know, British English is non-rhoticity, which means the letter R is totally silent when it comes after the vowel sounds. For example, now we have the longer vowels in British English. Compared to Americans, you might hear Americans, they tend to pronounce, quite differently compared to British English. For example, now in American English, you might let's take longer vowel first. The longer vowels which we have for example in the words like pass, okay, pass, grass, grass, okay, fast, fast, can't, can't. Have you noticed here? These are the longer vowels, these are the features where a lot more you will find it in British English pronunciation, where you can't find it in American English. So these are the pronunciation comparisons. And the short vowels, for example, in words like hot, pot, lot, plot, okay, not. So these are the short vowel sounds. I think in Americans you might hear not, part. I don't know, but I'm not really good at American pronunciation. But British pronunciation: hot, pot, not, lot. Okay, so sounds. This is the short vowel is important, where it separates American English to British pronunciation. So now the last vowel sound, or the last tip for having a British accent, for nailing British accent to work, if you're working towards, is the letter R. Of course, in particular, the silent R. Well, the silent R, it happens quite a lot in the middle of a word, and also at the end of a word and at the beginning of a word. But we are not gonna practice a lot more at the beginning. But we will focus on at the middle and at the end because they are quite trickier. So the first one at the middle of a word, in a word like mermaid, okay, mermaid, okay, work, work, return, return, exert, exert. So now, if you've noticed here, the letter R is, became after the vowel sounds. So in this case, you replace it with the sound. So, and the second, which is happens, the letter R, which is ER at the end of a word. For example, we have in a words like regular, regular, and also we have in the words like remember. So we don't pronounce the letter R at the end. Remember. We've got fair, fair, and fur, fur. Okay, so all these are the differences between British English and American pronunciation. And the third tip is, of course, intonations and syllable stress. Pay attention to these intonations because they play a massive part in terms of British English pronunciation. So, so now stressing a syllable of a word in British English can change the entire meaning of a word. Because, for example, in British English, stress or intonation it plays a massive, massive part compared to American. So, for example, now take a look on these words. So now this word in American English, you're more likely to hear advertisement, advertisement. But in British English, you're more likely to hear advertisement, advertisement. The stress here is in the second syllable. And also in a words like, how do you pronounce these words? So now this word, we have produce, produce, and produce. Produce, produce. So produce is a verb and produce is a noun. So they have the same spelling but different pronunciation and different syllable stress or different intonations. The same as in the words like conflict, 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 conflict. Conflict is a verb and conflict is a noun. The same as in the words like record, 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 record. How about these two words? So now we have in American English, you're more likely to hear vitamin and in British English, vitamin. The same as privacy and privacy, privacy. So these are all the variations, different comparison between British English and American pronunciation. So make sure that you stress your words because pay attention quite a lot on syllable stress because if you stress a word, can change the entire meaning of a word or can change the the entire meaning of a verb, whether it's a noun, and just do be aware of that. And number 4 is adjust vocabulary. Adjustment of the vocabulary. Adapt the vocabulary. Try to think about vocabulary because compared to American vocabulary, change your vocabulary. For example, if you're working towards your British English and you have kind of quite a lot about, quite a lot of American words rather than British words, and you want to kind of change your British pronunciation or English into British English. For example, now we have Americans words, they is slightly different to British words. For example, now we have American words. American more likely to say apartment and British more likely to say flat. Vacation, holiday, truck, lorry. Okay? These are the vocabulary comparison. You need to replace British word to American words. So that is going to really, really help because you will sound more British. You will replace your English to the British accent or British English. And of course, number 5 is of course learn phrases, learn idiomatic expressions, British idiomatic expressions. So now, British idiomatic expressions, they are kind of a little bit more very common among native speakers, particularly among British native English speakers. If you're listening to podcasts, if you're listening to kind of TV shows, you will hear quite a lot about these phrases. And I think, it's important because if you want to sound more British, you really need to learn all about these kind of phrases, idiomatic expressions to help you a little bit more with your pronunciation, to help you a little bit more with your English perfectionism. So, for example, instead of saying very tired or I'm tired today, or I'm so tight. Instead, you can say I'm knackered. Knackered. So, knackered is a British phrase which means you are tight, very, very, very tight. And what's about the kind of a little bit more about taking the piss? For example, if you talking to a friend, for example, and they say, "Oh, are you taking the piss?" That means, are you joking? Basically, are you taking the piss? And are you having a laugh? Are you having a laugh? Which means, of course, like, are you joking as well? Are you having a laugh? Highly, highly recommended to learn vocabulary, to learn phrases, to learn idiomatic expressions, particularly British idiomatic expressions. And also, number six is, of course, mimic and also record yourself. If you listen to a podcast, you listen to kind of, you know, radio, you listen to music, whatever thing that helps you to perfect your British English pronunciation, please do make sure that you mimic and copy the way you exactly hear or the way you heard the word. And of course, after that, please make sure that you record yourself and play it back. Make sure that like you, when you play it back, try to identify what mistakes you've made so far and then try to work on those mistakes because I think this is the better way to get feedback, to learn from your mistakes, and of course, to work on the particular sounds, whether it's a longer vowel or short vowels. And also, number seven is, of course, accent training and also feedback. Accent training, it could be for the language coach, particularly accent coach, or particularly I highly recommend to use the app called Youglish. This is the app where you can be able to take feedback, allows you to is it's all about British English, I think, and I'll put the link in the description below. Please, if you want to transform your British accent, I think you really need this app to use it because it's more like a dictionary, but I think this is a lot more better than dictionary because this is gives you about examples, people talking different variation of UK accents, but ultimately your target is to get British accent. And I'll put the link in the description below. Please make sure that you use the app and try to, if you have any word, put it there and share us about it. And it will give you a lot more about of examples, and also it will give you a lot about people talking, in different accents with example sentences, which is going to be really really helpful. And the last tip is, of course, use British English dictionaries. If you're working towards your British English, I highly recommend to all of the time make sure that you use British English dictionaries because they are kind of, they're quite different compared to American dictionaries. British English dictionaries is all about British English, and you might hear sometimes the reason I mentioned to use British English dictionaries because they all about spelling. Sometimes British English use different spelling compared to American, and American English they use different spelling compared to British English. For example, in words like realise and realise, they have the same meaning but different spelling. Colour and colour, license and license. So now, if you've noticed here, these are all the examples of, spelling from British English to American English. So you do make sure that if you're working towards British English, please do make sure that you use British English Dictionary only. And if you're working towards American English, make sure you use only American English dictionaries. And I think these are these are the techniques, these are the tips which will help you to level up, which will help you to transform your British pronunciation to more like a native English speaker. And if you can follow all these tips and techniques, I guarantee you will level up, you will transform your British pronunciation. Just try to practice it from day-to-day life. Try to adapt them in your learning process journey. And that's it. If you like what you saw today, you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and click the bell so you don't miss any weekly videos. And of course, share it with your friends. And that's it. I mean, I'll see you soon in the next video. If you have any questions, any opinions about upcoming videos, please drop them in the comment section below and I'll get back to you. So that's all about it. Thanks very much guys for watching and I'll see you soon. Cheers everyone, take care, bye bye.